let's go to this clip. Rick Santorum. It's unbelievable. It's like this guy gets paid to just say the most outlandish things in the world. And
in a whiny. He is literally, you know how you talk about aggrievement all the time? His voice
Walking
could be
aggrievement.
distilled as that.
And you'll recall that on this program, occasionally Michael will break out his right-wing Mandela. It was Rick Santorum comparing his work to on assaulting the Affordable Care Act to the work of Nelson Mandela that gave birth to that to that character.
Totally the same thing.
And you remember Rick Santorum was talking about all the blah people who I can't remember what context, like the blah people weren't getting jobs or something like that.
Wasn't he running? It was 2012?
Yeah, he was running for president. Those the blah people. And he is still on it, folks. He still has some very interesting theories about why racism in this country is so prominent. Here he is on CNN.
Avenue. But Kareem, President Obama said something, according to a new book by his former advisor, Ben Rhodes, that really is interesting because it's really about this whole notion of a culture war. He said the following: maybe we push too far. Maybe people just want to fall back into their tribe. Sometimes I wonder whether I was 10 or 20 years too early. You worked for him. You know, he's talking about culture. He's talking about identity politics.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I mean, I can understand that President Obama is now
Pause it.
reflecting,
Let's be clear on what Obama is saying here. That maybe the existence of a black president was just too much for our culture to bear at this time.
I think he's also pointing to the pushes that they made, like particularly the last couple of years with things like transgender rights. I think that's
you think
part
that's
of it.
it?
I think that it's slightly. I think it's slightly part of it as well.
I think
just that they were really, in conjunction with his identity, they were sort of saying like, we're going to just start like settling and being on the right side.
Yeah,
of these
I think
policy
he's
issues.
talking just fundamentally about being the first African American president. But all right, continue.
what we've seen in the last 2 years. Look, when I was in the White House the first 2 years, I worked on both elections, and what we saw was pretty horrific. You elect the first black president, and there was an uproar. You saw the Tea Party. You saw the obstruction by Republicans time and time again. And I would say that we swung. We elected the first black president, and then we swung and elected Donald Trump. And it is kind of problematic. There is something it says a lot about this country. And what Donald Trump did is he tapped into it, because let's not forget, he started his political career talking about birtherism, being the spokesperson of birtherism. And so he saw something as well and tapped into that racism that we have been seeing for the last, in particular, very heavily so in the last 10 years. And so this is where we are. And he's taking that. Donald Trump is taking that, and he ran with it. And let's not forget how he capped off his first year. He saw neo-Nazis marching in Charlotte. And what did he say? There are fine people on both sides. This is the president of the United States that we're talking about.
What's being ignored here is the role that Barack Obama played in all this. I mean, you just can't go from, well, we elected our first black president, and all of a sudden we get Donald Trump. There was something in between those two things.
No, I'm saying that we tapped in. Clearly, it tapped into something in this country.
The thing that tapped
when we elected the first black
was that many people
which is
saw
the racism.
Barack Obama being just that, doing more to exacerbate racism in this country
How?
than any.
What did he do?
Every time there was a controversy where someone of color was involved, he took the side many times against the police, against people. He did it over and over.
All right, pause it. Hold on for 1 second here. This is amazing. First off, he's saying, remember, the piece starts out with Barack Obama saying, perhaps my existence as president, and that's what I honestly would think he was saying, set this off. And Santorum starts his piece off by saying, no one's paying attention to Barack Obama's role in this. No, the whole piece is built around that.
He really is that voice that like, shut up, bitch.
But
stop it.
Contemplate every controversial scenario he's talking about that involves a black person and a police officer. All right, just contemplate. Why are they controversial? Like, were we even on this program? Are we talking about situations where, like, you've got two black guys robbing a bank, and we're like, free the money, and the cops just came in to crash this party? No, the reason why these are controversial is because you have an unarmed black person being shot.
It's like I was saying, a 50-50 play, ref goes to black. That's the point.
But can you scroll back a little bit? Okay.
Well, they're going to get, I mean,
Rick Santorum's
this guy
is
such a Neanderthal, as they all are, that he'll actually go right there.
And the thing I will say this about Rick Santorum, to his credit.
Yes.
If you look at his face while this woman from Move On is speaking, you could tell he he's not fronting.
No.
He is so deeply offended.
He is authentically aggrieved.
The presence of Barack Obama, and listen, let's also be very clear. When he's talking about a lot of people, he's talking about white people, right? He's not.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I'm literally on a countdown clock for Rick Santorum to use your press one for Spanish analogy.
Right.
Which is
saw
the racism.
Barack Obama being just that, doing more to exacerbate racism in this country than any.
What did he do?
Every time there was a controversy where someone of color was involved, he took the side many times against the police, against
when
people. He did it over and over and over again.
Unjustifiably
President Obama was. To many people out there,
you're talking about Trayvon Martin? Is that what you're talking about? Who he came out and said this was wrong? A young boy who was shot.
Guys, this breaks my heart. This breaks my heart to say this because this is an important discussion, and I hope you'll continue it online or on Twitter and certainly the next time.
I mean, that was the most interesting. But in those situations, I wish people would just say, like, be specific.
Why couldn't
if there were so many that you're talking about, be specific?
No, they've got it was because he said Trayvon could have been my son, and he also was like, dude, you shouldn't like arrest Skip Gates like on his porch.
Right.
But if that bothers you so much, I'll invite both of you to the White House to have a beer, because obviously there's multiple perspectives on this.
Right.
If anything, you could have said, no. The cop doesn't get to go to the White House for a beer just because he arrested a Harvard professor on his own porch. Maybe that was overly magnanimous of President Obama.
Well, here's the question. Here's the real question about that. Why didn't he get a medal?
That's right. He should. What Obama should have done is, I look at Trayvon and I see another brother doesn't know how to respond to authority.
Exactly.
George Zimmerman was terrified for his life.
Officer Riley, here's your medal. That porch was, who knows?
Skip, here's my question for you, Professor Gates. If you didn't have anything to hide, why were you so hostile to the police officer? Just doing his job.
Interesting.
That would have been that's the apology tour they really wanted.